Hello, this is session 4 of the Fall of Plaguestone Campaign Diaries. I hope you've been enjoying this series. If you are, then consider leaving a like or a comment, as they are truly the best way to help a channel grow, and I have tons more content that I'd like to make for you. As a reminder, I do run community one-shots, which you can join if you are in our Discord. There is a link in the description. Right, let's get into it. Last episode, I talked about how the equipment progression might be hard to achieve in this adventure. I do stand by that. However, our heroes began this session to try their best to work towards that. After clearing out Hallard's hideout, they had a fair amount of unusable loot, so obviously they wanted to sell it. Now, the adventure is lacking a rather crucial chunk of information. It was Paizo's first 2nd edition adventure, so maybe we can cut them a bit of slack, but it lacks the information needed to run Etran's Folly as an actual location. It has lovely descriptive text about a few story-relevant locations, but it doesn't include a town level, what resources or facilities are available, or any of that information that we've come to expect in recent source material. It's certainly not a town that you could pull from the adventure and drop into a homebrew game without significant work. There's also a slight bit of conflicting information. It sometimes refers to the feed mill as the town's only proper business. However, during the chase encounter with Finnick, one of the locations is a market. This implies that there are other vendors in town. That, and the presence of Bort's caravan being completely ignored, makes it seem like the only shopping opportunities are whatever level 1 common items the feed mill has available. Obviously, this won't work for the sake of gear progression. My solution to this was to expand the market into a real location and to make Bort's caravan the main source of shopping. I established the usual vendors in the market, such as a blacksmith, and set up Bort's caravan as a level 4 shop. This means our heroes can now get most of what they need to progress this adventure specifically. Basically, that was a lot of words to say they sold some loot, they bought some potions, and they paid the blacksmith to transfer a +1 rune from Hallard's weapon onto Wolfram's staff. That last one takes a day though, so he's got a new staff to use until he can collect his +1 staff tomorrow. Once they had completed their shopping, they began to discuss the day's activities. Our heroes wanted to find Noala, as she is likely to know most about the increase in strange elemental animals in the area. However, short of desperately wandering the woodlands and hoping to run into her, there wasn't really a way to find her themselves. They needed to wait for her to visit the town. This adventure has a few awkward instances of the party just needing to wait for things to happen. Finnick leaving his hiding place and getting seen, Noala just happening to visit town to progress the story. More often than I'd like, the party are expected to twiddle their thumbs and wait for the story to progress in its own time. That feels a bit weird, especially when your group is as proactive as mine. In the meantime then, our heroes decided to go speak with Rolf, the sheriff, about Finnick's disappearance. They found him unenthusiastically patrolling the southern part of town, and they approached him.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So, I'm sorry to bother you so early in the morning, but have you seen Fennec anywhere?
Oh, no. Why?
Okay. So, we did find out that he was actually the one poisoning Bart.
Finnick?
He did it because Hallard forced him to do so. He was too scared to, oppose him or reject his offer. So, yeah, he did it, and he has left town. But
Well, do you know how long he's been missing?
I think it's since yesterday. He apparently went to the mill and just got quickly some food and then left, as the others said. He didn't seem to talk much to them.
You think he's left town?
I think so. I don't know where he could have been going, though.
Yeah, he's always been too too scared to travel.
Yeah. It's also quite dangerous here with all the animals that, spit some fire, some acid.
Yeah. I'll put together a search anyway. See if we can find him hiding somewhere in town. The group was unsure whether to mention that they had killed Hallard, but since it was self-defense and Hallard was the killer, it felt safe doing so.
Well, on that note, we also might have, gone rid of Hallard. He kind of attacked us when we approached him.
Oh, right. Self-defense then?
Yes, definitely. He was a tough opponent.
Yeah, I wasn't looking forward to dealing with him. Do you have evidence of him being the killer, or the one behind it. They showed Rolf the note and questioned who V might be. Rolf couldn't recall who that might be, but when our heroes asked to continue their investigation, he was happy to allow it.
I must ask, with your permission, we wish to investigate this further and find out the actual involvement of this V character with Bort and the dealings that were occurring. As it seems like there's maybe something more sinister going on in your town. Would you give us permission to carry on investigating at your behest?
Yeah. I mean, you're free to do what you want now.
I appreciate your support. If we need anything, we'll come find you.
Yeah, okay. Before Rolf could set out in search of Finnick, Namari requested that they don't treat him too harshly. I'll go see if we can find the goblin.
I have to say, when you do find him, please try not to scare him. He's been through a lot, and I think the way he's been treated in this town represents in his actions of not asking for help. He really was stuck between decisions.
Make a diplomacy. He gives you a bit of a stare. Alright. I mean, we'll have to take precautions. He's killed someone, but I'll try and make sure nobody gets hurt. Then he turns and starts walking away. As a follower of the Imperial Lord Regathiel, Namari takes her role of a protector very seriously, especially of those who cannot protect themselves. Her relationship with Finnick seems to be forming around her protective spirit, and I'm curious how she's going to react if he is found. I could see her edicts winning out over local law if things do come to that. Next, our heroes made their way to the feed mill. They'd been wanting to talk to Targon about the town's history for a while now, and they finally had time to do it. Delmer was behind the bar, and after a short chat, they asked if they could speak to Targon. Delmer explained that he needed to go on his morning walk, so asked if the group wanted to take him. They agreed, so once he was wrapped up and in his wheelchair, they began to walk through Etran's Folly with him. As they visited each location, Targon would ramble on about the various histories of the town. As they exited the feed mill, he began talking. I set up this tavern. It's the only major business in town. 50 years ago, before the Goblin Blood Wars. My brother died in that fight. Most of my extended family died. The town didn't get involved. It was mostly in the west. We don't like goblins here. They took him past the Plaguestone at the centre of town.
Since you are such a lifeblood in this town, you must know the origins of this. Could we perhaps have the tale?
Oh, yes. Yes, we had a terrible plague long time ago, and this was used to give food and aid to those suffering from the plague. Fill the top with vinegar and put the coins in the vinegar to clean them. So, I was a local witch named Silwith. She started the plague. Terrible, nasty woman. But then she caught it herself, and she cursed our only priest before she died. His name was Father Bolgrist. Then he got the plague and he died. They had a nasty feud. Our church has been empty ever since. No more religion in this town. The story about Silwith is not entirely accurate, as she had no part in starting the plague and was only trying to help. But Targon seems like the type that would buy into rumours like that, so in his mind, that is indeed what happened. She had a daughter who stayed around in the mother's home for a few years, but then she died or ran away.
Did you perhaps know the daughter's name?
Vilry. Nasty, bitter woman. This was a major clue in figuring out who V is, and something they could have learned ahead of finding Hallard's note if they'd done this walk earlier. Next, they walked through the northern part of town, past the empty, desolate houses. This part of town saddens Targon, as he remembers how it used to be. Terrible, desperate place. Never recovered from the plague. Everybody with coin lives in the south side of town.
Nobody to look after these houses. They either left or died in the plague. Yeah, it's terrible. Don't like it.
They followed the path north and headed up the Drunken Shepherd's Path. The turnip farms and countryside cheered him up a bit.
These used to be sheep pastures, but the last large flock left town years ago. Now all we have are turnips. Turnips for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And pudding. Ridiculous notion.
As they reached the halfway point, they stopped at an old, unkept shrine to Gosra. Gosra? Gosray? Gosra.
It's a shrine to Gosra. The one the druids like. There used to be druids who would gather in the shrine long ago. But since Father Bolgrist died, nobody worships here anymore.
You see him like stop and stare and like squint his eyes as though he's looking at something.
What lovely birds.
And as you glance over, you see definitely not birds. There are 3 large, like hawk-sized mosquito-looking things crawling over the shrine. And as you sort of stop and he's been chatting, they begin to sort of like take notice of you and buzz up into the air. The Bloodseekers swarmed forwards and battle began. I like this encounter because it has the added element of protecting the defenseless Targon. Obviously Targon has like no hit points, so I couldn't have actually had the Bloodseekers try their best to kill him. That also wouldn't have made sense because they're instinctual insects. There's no reason they would prioritize an old man. The protection came out more in the way of potential harm and role-playing, which is still very fun. The Bloodseekers flew towards the nearest source of blood, which was Misha. One of them managed to land on her and attach itself to her and began draining her blood. Targon was very confused and questioned why they were attacking the birds, but our heroes fought back. Misha and Wolfram killed one of the Bloodseekers while Namari rolled Targon to a safe distance.
The birds are, we're just gonna feed the birds, okay?
The remaining insects latched onto Misha and began draining her, while Targon muttered to himself,
I want to feed the birds.
Aww. Kind of cute.
In the following moments, the group splattered the Bloodseekers that were swarming and draining Misha, but not before she was severely drained of blood. The group took a moment to heal and recover their strength.
Oh, the birds all flew away before we could feed them. Sorry.
Oh, typical.
Before setting back off, Namari questioned Targon about the shrine.
So this shrine, you said it was for the druids?
Oh, a long time ago.
Does nobody's come to tend to it anymore? It looks like it's in quite a disrepair.
No. There's no religion. Nobody to lead the young folk to gods. It's a terribly neglected part of our community.
I'm sorry to hear that. Do you mind if I pray with you?
Oh, which god do you follow?
Regathiel.
Oh, not a common one around here, but I could use a blessing, regardless of who it's by.
Okay, I bow my head over him and just whisper, "May Regathiel bless you and protect you."
Once they were ready, they continued their trip and began to head past Etran's Hill.
It's where Etran spent his fortune founding this town. And the fool died because the house set fire and he built it too far away from the bloody river. That's how Etran's Folly got its name. When he founded it, it was Etranville. Very sad.
Mm-hmm.
And how long ago was this town founded?
Oh, long time ago. Before my time. Before my time.
Is any of Etran's family still around? Any generations we could talk to?
I don't think so. Not here, anyway. His immediate family burned with him, and the rest of them don't live here. I think they were in the last war. Well, what was last war?
I see.
I was playing up the confused old man aspect here, as technically Targon himself is a relative of Etran. I also forgot the original name of Etran's Folly, so said Etranville instead of the correct Etranton, My bad. With that, the group finished their walk and returned Targon home. He complained about being late for lunch, and then Delma took him off their hands and thanked them. Once they were alone, they discussed what they had learned from this old man's ramblings.
I have to say, I would like to go back and visit Etran's Hill at some point. There could be some interesting relics left there about the town's past. Maybe we can find out more about this witch that used to live here. So I have to wonder where she resided and where her house was.
Should have asked him when he was still there. Didn't you think about asking that?
I did think about asking that, and then we fed the birds.
Yeah, stupid birds. The thing is, he mentioned she had a daughter, right?
Yeah, he said she went missing, though.
Did they go missing, or did they go into hiding, though?
That was my thought, too.
Surely someone wouldn't just unleash a plague upon a random town in the woods. Maybe there
Yeah.
was some, trouble preceding this, and maybe their daughter is still involved.
My thought is that this V, so Vilry, could perhaps be her daughter.
Yeah,
She
my
maybe-
thought too.
Maybe she's wanting to get revenge on the town or something. This was only
I-
50 years ago, correct? I'm sure there's other people in town who still might know about this.
Probably.
I did clarify for them that the plague only happened 15 years ago, not 50. 50 years ago is when the tavern was set up. They asked Delma if she knew where Silwith had lived.
He mentioned that during the plague that you had here, that there was a witch called Silwith.
Oh, yeah.
Do you happen to know where her house was?
No, it was one of the northern ones, but that's been empty for a long time.
She lived in town.
Yeah, she was just a member of the community.
Do you know why she started the plague?
It's a rumor that she started the plague.
I see.
The priest was sure it was her, but I mean, no one presented any evidence that she did. So I don't know. I mean, much too long ago now to sort of find anything in the way of like proof.
Of course. Then I also want to ask her daughter, Vilry. Do you happen to know anything about her whereabouts?
Oh no, she's been gone for a long time. I don't actually know if she's even alive.
Do you happen to know what she looked like?
What she look like? I mean, elven, or at least half elven. There's some pointy ears, dark hair, pale skin, a bit of a goth. I mean, she was young. I don't know what she looks like now.
Alright. I mean, I suppose it's been years. She could have done anything.
Delma, being younger and more open-minded at the time, was one of the few people in town that hadn't bought into the rumour that she had started the plague. And when Misha asked why Silwith had started the plague, she told them as much.
Did he say why she would have done something like this?
No. I personally, I think it was just a plague.
Yeah, understandable.
Like, she died from it herself. It feels weird to sort of assume that she had anything to do with it. But I wasn't around. Like, I mean, I was around, but I wasn't in the position I'm in now. I didn't know everybody.
I see. Did you know her personally, maybe?
No, I mean, I knew of her. She helped for the most part. I wouldn't really even call her a witch. She was just like a alchemist. Like, she would help with ailments and things.
Okay.
They left and discussed what they'd learned.
I went to hunch at this. So it seems like this tale that he told was more of an old man's biases than factual history.
I mean, if that is what the priest back then has said, and a lot of people listen to the priest, I guess that's what these people saw as reality.
My theory is that perhaps this plague just happened to be, and that the priest was accusing the witch of causing it, and the town probably just believed it at face value. Maybe. That is just I don't know. I haven't been here, of course. But she was consequently ousted and treated badly. And when she then got infected with the plague, no one wanted to help, which would make her daughter probably, maybe even rightfully angry at the town.
Yeah. To
But
be fair, she may not even have been a witch in the first place.
true.
She just knew about alchemical things, which, she could have taught her daughter too. So maybe that's why they have the dealings going on. Anyhow, we have no clue where her daughter might be, since she just disappeared.
Our heroes decided to follow Hallard's map and see what they could find at the drop point. It led them to about 3 miles outside Veteran's Folly into a small clearing with a large hollow stump. After taking a look inside, the group found nothing but empty crates, confirming their suspicions that they had been too late. While they hadn't been able to find any clues here, it did help them connect the dots between the alchemical reagents and the elemental animals.
Now, I was thinking that if someone is mixing some perhaps poison with this, I would think maybe they are also experimenting with it. And looking at the nature around here, that looks pretty poisoned, if I may say so. And maybe they are also responsible for these, well, I don't want to say they are mutated animals, but surely someone did something to these animals, maybe tested some alchemical mixtures on them, which turned them into these elementally charged specimen.
I think that's a fair connection. And Hallard also had this on him and a hold of mutagen. So I doubt he was able to make that or purchase himself. So they obviously have these mutagens that can change the way humans, animals work. But I wonder to what end? Surely they don't want to turn the whole town into fiery versions of themselves. That would be chaos.
I don't know. It's true. The motive doesn't make any sense to me.
They were a little dejected about their lack of clues, so they doubled down on their efforts to find the ranger. They still had no real way of searching for her in this large forest, so I decided to throw them a bone and give them what they wanted. As they returned to town, Delma was stood outside the feed mill talking to a hooded figure. As they approached, Delma pointed to the group and the figure began heading straight towards them, pulling a tarp-covered sled. The stranger removed the cover, revealing a pile of wolf carcasses, including the caustic wolf they had killed at the beginning of the adventure. Is this your work?
It looks like they are ours, yes.
Good. Could you come out into the seclusion of the woods with me?
Not without you telling us why. I'm not partial to going into the woods with a strange person. I don't even know what they look like.
I
I
will
would
look
just-
over to her.
Sorry.
Are you a ranger?
Yes, I look after the woods and keep the town safe. I don't want to talk about such matters in this civilized location.
Well, I mean, there's space over here away from the towns. We can always talk there. I don't understand why we have to go into the woods.
I have a camp nearby. I need to burn these creatures. I would like to talk and work.
I will, give Namari a little nudge. I think that's the elven ranger lady everyone was talking about. We should just go with her.
I don't see any problems with going with her. It's 3 of us and 1 of her, right?
Also, Delma didn't seem stressed to talk to her at all. So I don't think she's unfriendly.
I'll be happy to go if you show me your face first.
She seems a little frustrated, but
I
she
just like to know, the feelings of those that I'm dealing with. I'm sure you can understand that people aren't always honest with me.
You see, she's kind of angrily just tears her hood down, and you do see long elven ears, deep emerald eyes. Although they are looking pretty frustrated at you.
The people in this town do not like me, and I would rather not stress them out by flaunting my unwanted self here. But if you need me to expose myself before you, then fine. Can we please go talk about these wolves?
A deal's a deal. Lead the way.
For a champion of the people, Namari sure is untrusting of people. Noala led our heroes a short distance from town where there was a fire pit already burning. She began to speak, all the while dragging wolf corpses into the flame with her one working hand.
These wolves are not the first, and I am afraid that they will not be the last. Worst still,
The forest itself is beginning to turn sour. Plants and trees are withering, bearing a bitter fruit that sickens and kills those who eat it. If you've been out in the old orchard, you've seen it, the blight that is growing. And I would like your help to stop it.
For how long has been this going on?
It has been about a year now.
Oh.
Do you know where it started?
I don't know the origin, but I have ideas. Deeper in the woods there is a particularly nasty area. I want to go and check it out, but I am unable to deal with threats. If you have killed these wolves, you are capable.
So it's not really assistance you require, it's protection, correct?
A little bit of both. If you are not willing to do this out of generosity, I can train you in the skills needed to survive in the wilderness, or how to be a good ranger.
I mean, that can never hurt, right? Knowing a little bit your ins and outs of a forest.
I believe these animals are a threat. I mean, they nearly killed a poor soul in town. They attacked our caravan. It's a
Yeah.
threat that needs to be dealt with. I'd be
Definitely.
happy to help. And when I say like happy to help, I'm gonna walk up and help her like drag the next wolf corpse.
She like adjusts herself to accept the help, but she doesn't like acknowledge it verbally.
Look, I apologize for my harshness in town. You've said that you have issues with people not liking you, and personally, so have I. I don't trust people easily.
Okay. Noala told the group it would be a long journey to the Blight and that they should prepare ahead of time. Since Wolfram was still waiting on his +1 staff, they decided to wait and go in the morning. In the meantime, they headed up to the ruins atop Etran's Hill. They were looking for clues about the town's history in the burnt house, however, it had been so many years since it burned down that it lacked any kind of information. What was up there, though, was Finnick. He had snuck up here as it's a rarely visited place. As our heroes arrived, he quietly hurried into the back of the building and shook with fear. Our heroes began to search the building for clues, trinkets, or trapdoors. As it so happens, Namari rolled a natural 20 when searching, and she noticed the fresh crumbs left by Finnick's food. She followed the trail and peered into one of the back rooms where she saw Finnick huddled on the floor, shaking with fear. Round the corner, his eyes slowly rise to meet yours.
I'm gonna put my fingers to my lips, and I'm gonna creep into the room and crouch down, and it's gonna point behind me and show that we're not gonna go that way.
Okay, make a stealth check for me.
No.
You're trying to be stealthy, you gotta make a stealth check. Wolfram and Misha, you notice the absence of Namari.
I want to shout. Namari, did you find anything?
Not in here. Just looking through rubble, and I'm gonna wiggle a bit of wood on the floor next to me.
Okay. Namari continued to take pity on the goblin and tried to help him find a way out of the situation.
Everyone's searching for you. You need to go.
Where am I supposed to go?
I don't know. Just not here. It's not safe. They blame you. The people in the caravan blame you for what happened. Hallard's already dead, and they need to have someone to blame. But I know it wasn't your fault.
He nods and sort of slowly gets to its feet. I'm not sure I could survive out there.
How many caravans come through here, apart from ours? Could you maybe hide and get to one of those next time they leave? I'm sure they'd take your services.
Make a diplomacy check. I could try. But if people have tried to find me, where do I go?
Look, how about this? If you seem pretty good at hiding here, correct? People never really seem to know where you are. Could you hide somewhere that they would never think to look? I don't know, the areas, and then when we've finished with our business here and the caravan moves on, I could come back. I could take you with me to my order. We always need help back home.
You would do that for me?
I help people that need help. It seems like you need it right now more than anyone. No one's ever given you help, am I wrong?
He nods.
So look, you just try your best. Stay out of sight. Here, I'm going to give him the rest of my rations. You don't have to go into town for at least a few days. Maybe this will be wrapped up by then.
Okay.
Thank you.
With that, Finnick fled into the turnip fields. I really like this stance Namari has taken with Finnick. It's a subplot that gives so much life to her character, and having that slight conflict of interest makes for some great roleplay. Namari returned to the others and bluffed that she had found nothing.
You guys found anything?
Nah, it's just rubble and ashes here.
I haven't found anything either. This was a waste of time, I suppose.
Very disappointing. I had hoped for another trapdoor.
I do wish we knew more about this Etran gentleman. He seems like pride was his biggest downfall, but I don't know, I feel like there must have been something more. Like, why come out here and settle this town?
Well, I think he was just very, bougie, rich guy. Showing off that he's too good to be with the rest of the town.
With nothing else to find here, our heroes moved away and decided to instead check out the abandoned church. They'd heard enough of the accusatory priest that their interest was piqued. The building was unkept and the roof was partially collapsed. They headed inside and found that it was filled with large sacks of turnips. They searched the room for a short while before a gruff voice disturbed them from the doorway. An aging dwarven farmer was stood looking at them.
Can I help you?
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to walk into your, I guess, turnip storage?
This is me barn.
Yes, of course. I thought this was a church.
It's not been a church for 10 years.
Did they move the stuff that was in here somewhere else, or was it just dumped?
I don't know. Ever since priest died, I just moved my stuff in. Someone might have taken it away, but there's no godly folk in here.
I guess that's fair. Maybe I need to ask somewhere else then.
Maybe.
He sort of scans the group and his eyes linger on Namari.
You planning on bringing back the godly ways to town?
I mean, I'll always spread the word. People will listen, but I'm not looking for a permanent residence currently.
That's a
Why?
pity.
Are you interested?
I would have been willing to give this church back if you'd been looking to establish the church again. Personally, I like Abadar, but I'd be happy to see any church of the good or the lawful.
How would you think the people of the town would respond to the Crimson Templars?
I'm sure they'd be happy to have the help. People need
Well.
to be a god in them.
I'll take this location back. To my comrades, I'm sure they'll be willing to establish an outpost here. If you said you'd give the church back, they'll be happy to have somewhere to start. Regathiel is all about helping those who need it, and looking around here, I would happily say all of you need some help.
Well, it's seen better days, that's for sure.
The name's Namari. What's yours, friend?
Metmon.
Metmon offered the services of his son to help with the repairs and seemed happy at the idea of a functioning church. He did shoo them out though, stating that it isn't a church yet.
Everyone who lives here seems to just want their town to be back how it used to be.
It does seem so. I mean, it looks like the town really didn't recover well from the plague.
And the war before.
True.
And then whatever's coming from Vilry, we really need to stop that. I don't think this town could take another hit that hard.
While Namari and Wolfram went to buy rations, Misha returned to the caravan to help out with her usual daily tasks. They spent the rest of the day doing odd jobs and waited for the morning. Wolfram collected his +1 staff and then the group headed back into the woods to meet Noala. Once they had reconvened, she began to explain the plan. Okay, so I will lead you to nearby Blight. You will enter and explore. I will roam around the site, setting up snares along the common trails that animals take, and ensuring that any stray creatures that are flushed out of the area are contained. Does that sound okay to you?
What can we expect from the blighted area? Is it just rotten, similar to the orchard?
Think about Orchard, but much worse. It is going to be toxic, dangerous. The plants and animals are likely to be fucked up.
And the objective of this is to cull the mutated animal population. Yes?
Well, yes, and to see if there's some kind of origin in there, or whether it is unnatural.
Okay. Any tips for traversing this area? Anything we should avoid doing? I assume avoid touching anything that looks bad.
I do not eat or drink anything from within the area.
Sounds simple enough.
Okay,
How long will it take for us to get there?
3 hours.
Lead the way then.
O'Hara's followed Noala for much of the morning until reaching the edge of the rotten forest. The plants were a sickly shade of green and covered with brown blotches. The air smelled of sweet rot, and the trees looked blighted and unhealthy, as their planks peeled away in thick, black, sticky strips. Eventually, Noala came to a stop and turned to O'Hara's. This is where those wolves came from. I am sure of it. Somewhere ahead is their den, but I will leave that for you to explore. If you need my help, you will find me out here. I'm going to set up snares and make sure nothing gets out of these rotten copse. The group cautiously moved deeper into the blight until they came across a small clearing. Ahead, they could see a large collapsed tree, its roots creating a dark opening in the earth. Between them and the den entrance, though, 3 sickly-looking bushes surrounded a wolf corpse. The 3 bushes were a plant creature called a bloodlash bush, and Wolfram recognized them as such. They are highly dangerous and feed on the blood of animals and people. Unfortunately, the group had already wandered too close, and the plants began to stir. So I admittedly messed up this encounter. By now, our heroes should have been level 2, however, they'd been so efficient in identifying Halid as the killer, they had missed a few encounters from Chapter 1 and fallen behind in experience. I had rebalanced this encounter previously to account for having 3 level 2 characters, but not 3 level 1 characters. I didn't immediately clock on to this error, so once the battle began, it was an absolute slaughter, and I had to make some on-the-fly adjustments to strategy that would nerf the plants. Otherwise, a TPK would have been unavoidable. The bushes can do a lot of damage and cause a stacking bleed effect if run as intended. They can also use an action called Blood Siphon to deal that persistent damage to the bleeding target and then heal that amount. If I'd been running them with the intent to kill, repeatedly whipping our heroes would have killed them pretty quickly. Instead, I ran them in a way where they whipped once to cause bleeding and then they exclusively used Blood Siphon. Since Blood Siphon uses 2 actions, it was a very inefficient strategy that evened out the playing field. I also completely ignored their 3-action Spin Strike that could have hit all 3 heroes at once, and I reduced their movement speed from 20 feet to 10 feet. Even with all these nerfs, it was still a very close battle in which Nomari and Wolfram were reduced to dying once and Misha was dropped to dying 3 times. Safe to say, it was a brutally difficult fight, even after the nerfs, and once they beat it, I immediately bumped them straight up to level 2. Thanks to the Lay on Hands from Nomari, the Soothe spell from Misha, and the haul of potions they had bought at the start of this session, they somehow managed to pull through. But as our heroes stood, surrounded by dead, blood-soaked bushes, we ended the session. This session had some great drama to it, especially regarding Finnick, and the roleplay was good throughout. We're now firmly in Chapter 2, so we can look forward to some focus on the elemental animals and the mystery regarding their existence. This adventure certainly does feel a little unbalanced, both in terms of combat and pacing, but I think I've managed to alleviate those issues somewhat. I spoke to the players and they are enjoying the story and the gameplay so far. If you're enjoying this series, then please give the video a like and subscribe if you aren't. Comments and engagement go a really long way for a small channel like mine, so I appreciate all of the support. I'll try to get the next video out quicker than the recent wait for this series. Until then though, I'll see you soon. Bye bye.